first of all, I want to thank you guys, you and Amy, for the amazing effort over the last 2-3 weeks for this event. And like I told you on Twitter the other day, I mean, this is something that you guys have to do more frequently. You know, I know it's a lot of work and it's a big hassle for you guys, but I mean, the impact is just so big. People all over, you know, Africa, for example. I'm going to talk about Africa because this is where I'm based right now. They talked to me about the event, and I hope that they woke up early and joined. But like I said, it's been great efforts from you guys, and I hope that you can do it every 3-6 months. Why not? I mean, there's a lot of passionate people out there that want guidance, and they want to, you know, they want some expert advice. And you've been doing an amazing job, Ed, over the last 2-3 years in this. And and I think that we can give some of this knowledge to the people. Sabrina's here.
Sabrina, you're in the house. Lovely to see you. Before we'll get rocking and rolling, I just want to let the live audience that if you have a question for Sabrina or Diaa, just put capital letters question, and if I see one, I'll bring it on straight away. We want to make this as really engaging as possible, despite we can't do it in person, but we can try our best online. And we're going to get straight to it. Sabrina, can you explain to the live audience who you are, what you specialize in, and also your fascinating and inspiring sports career journey as well?
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you're at. My name is Sabrina Buljubasic, as many can see. Right now, I'm currently the CEO at FK Sarajevo, which is a football club here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the biggest football clubs. We won the double title last year. Currently, we're in first position. Unfortunately, we're not playing any matches, but it's good to be in the first place anyway. I started my footballing career when I was 12 years old. I started playing football in the United States of America before I moved to Bosnia at the age of 19. At the age of 19, I moved back to Bosnia and finished my bachelor's degree in international law and diplomacy, founding a football team in Tuzla, which is my hometown. It was the first ever women's team there. I was coaching as well. Then I decided to move to Sarajevo to pursue still playing my career. And it's a bigger city. It's the capital of Bosnia. So I decided to move there. After I moved here, I figured that, international law, although it's very interesting, it has nothing to do with sports. So it was not as interesting to me. So I found out about ISDE, and I pursued my degree in international sports law, which I finished in 2014. After that, I came back, and then I didn't know what to do. I tried to find a job in Bosnia, although it's quite difficult here to get a job, especially if you're somebody that no one knows who you are. So I started going around, still playing football, asking for somebody to at least allow for me to volunteer so I can get more experience. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance, but after a while, it kind of all collided together. I started volunteering at FK Sarajevo for 3 months. After 3 months, I was hired to become the head of legal there. And then after 6 months in total, volunteering and being head of legal, I became the CEO of FK Sarajevo, the first ever woman to be the CEO there. So it's a quite interesting journey.
I think more inspiring.
Wow.
Diaa, please share your fascinating journey as well, my man.
I have nothing to say after Sabrina. I mean, amazing, Sabrina. Very proud of you. My name is Diaa Salah, and of course, you know that Mo Salah now is one of the luckiest guys because he has my last name. I was born in Egypt. Then I traveled on with my family to Canada, where I was brought up a little bit, and I came back. I played football. I had the passion for football. I played in the youth division, and I played in the first division here in Egypt. And then I went off, and I am a computer engineer, but thankfully I changed that career. I went back to Canada, and I played professional football in Canada. Went off to London, England, and I wanted to play with the big teams, and I did a trial with QPR, Queen Park Rangers. But physically, I did not get into the team. So I had to play a couple of years non-league. And then, anyway, I did my level 1 coaching from the FA. But I figured out that coaching is something that I was not very much me. So when I moved back to Egypt, I did my FIFA diploma in sports management. And then after that, I was in charge of a couple of big football teams here, the youth division, the first team. I left, I went I went off to Libya for a while. And right now I'm doing, I'm working for the largest sports data and integrity company, Sport Radar, in the world. And I've been there for 2 years. And yeah, that's just a quick brief. And, I have the passion for sports, and it's something that, that a lot of people want to work in. I know it's not very easy, but, it's something that we need to keep pushing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go straight into it because there's so many sort of slight similarities. I'm going to start with the importance of self-education, like straight to it, because Sabrina, you've done ISDE. Diaa, you've done with regards to the FIFA diploma program. Could you just explain, Sabrina, start with you, how doing like that master's supported you to where you are now?
Well, definitely. I think in the end, I think it was the best decision I made. It wasn't 100% sure at that point that I was going to actually enroll, considering there wasn't too many people from Bosnia or from the Balkan region that actually enrolled to finish the sports master's degree or sports law in general. And I think I just wanted to do something that had to do with law and sports. So for me, that was the most important part. The reason why it was so important to me once I joined there, the first class I had was the lawyer from Bayern Munich. So once I came there and I had a lawyer from Bayern Munich sitting there and teaching me, I was like, okay, this is the perfect place for me. Sitting next to me were people that were representing players like Firmino or Thiago Silva. So at that point, it was very, very interesting to hear their stories, their backgrounds. So not just learning the details and learning about the industry because it was relatively new, sports law in general. It was the fact that having these connections that we still till this day we contact. Just the other day we're talking about making a tournament again, playing against each other, the full-time students and the part-time students playing a football match, which we used to do all the time. So I think the network and the connection is definitely something that assisted me in my career, and still till this day, there's so many people that assist me when I need some assistance, for example, in Brazil, in Spain, or anywhere throughout the world. The connections and the network was quite important. So definitely one of the best decisions I made, and it definitely applies to my career today.
How about you, Diaa?
Well, like I said, I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and then but I was lacking that passion. I worked a while in as an IT guy in a big multinational company, but over the years it was something that I didn't feel that I had the passion for. So I had to take that risk, especially when you have a family. It's not that easy to take that risk and move on to a new career. But thankfully, I was put in a very good position at that time, and I did my diploma. And again, just like Sabrina said, it was an amazing experience for me, because the networking part, this is something that I wanted to highlight. Is something very important. The networking, the communications in our sports industry. Doing a lot of different jobs today. You have to connect with the right people, and you have to connect in the right way. And absolutely, Sabrina, I totally agree with you. When I was in that course, I was sitting beside people that I was like, oh my God, these guys are with me in the course. And over the years, I became like a guest speaker at the FIFA course. Every year, I go and I give a new lecture about sports to the new classes. And honestly, I'm amazed with the amount of youngsters and people that have that passion for sports, and they want to get into the industry. I know it, just like in Sarajevo, probably it's here in Africa, it is still not very well developed. We do have a long way to go. And we have a lot of youngsters out there that, today they worked in multinationals, they worked in other companies, and they want to shift. And they're a bit, skeptical whether to take that move. And this is our job. I mean, I give a lot of advice, like, Ed, to youngsters about how to make that shift and get into that and get into this industry, and hopefully, we can learn and benefit from their passion that they have.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go even more in depth with building authentic connections. I'm going to sort of share a little story because it involves all of us. Dev Kumar Palmer, who's a speaker later today, about 3 years ago, Diaa and I have not met in person yet, but we've been on Twitter for years in good connections. Then I got connected to Dev. I actually connected Dev to Diaa. They met in Egypt, Sabrina, last year in person. And then, nicely Dev connected to you. And I said, look, Diaa's got to connect with Sabrina. And I've been like waiting for this moment for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to share to the audience, this is how it works.
Yep.
But it's the right way you communicate. You're going to make some mistakes.
Definitely.
Like, I hope Sabrina don't mind saying this, because of our podcast earlier the year, you said you're mindful of how you are on social media because of your role. And I'm saying to people, I'm just giving people my experience. When I was connecting with Sabrina, I was extremely mindful. Like, if you don't mind, you may comment, Sabrina, but it took us around 4 months to get our podcast done because of the workload. Also, I think winning the double was probably more exciting than doing a podcast chart. But could you just give a little insight, Sabrina, of building those meaningful connections? Because I've shared a fun story, but it's a truthful story. It's just, I want people to understand watching live that this is how it works. Yeah. You just can't put your finger on it to explain it in a book or even a masterclass. It's just human behavior, if that makes sense.
Well, definitely. Well, since you mentioned Dev, I will start with Dev. We finished the degree together at Diaa. So the first time I met him was with a Snicker bar and I think a juice or something at class. I remember him eating. So, of course, attracted me right away. It wasn't about his football skills in the tournament because they weren't so great, even though he's from the UK, unfortunately. I think he's going to kill me for this.
My football skills were okay. We're good.
I think in general, the decision I made to become the CEO involved a lot of me talking to Dev, because he is still a very big mentor of mine. Just going back to Bosnia as well, when the decision came for me to become the CEO, although I wasn't really asked, I was just actually given the position. Dev was the one that supported it, even though he gave me some, kind of a heads up, be aware that it's not going to be easy. But these connections and this kind of relationship with him allowed for me to develop further outside of the scope of Bosnia, which it's very difficult. The people that I communicate with that are from other clubs here in Bosnia, they do have the connections, but I think it's much wider. Once I started building the relationship with Dev, he introduced me, of course, to you, Ed, and he introduced me to a lot of other people in the industry because his work is much more involved throughout the world. Mine is more in Bosnia and maybe throughout European competitions. So the connection that we made, where we actually became really good friends, he opened up the doors to me in regards to this network that I have right now. And when we have situations, for example, we had situations registering a player, we had difficulties. His connection and the people that he knew allowed for me to find a way to be able to register a player outside of the scope of the transfer window, because we had a difficulty at that time. And these connections allow for you to be able to move through the industry. In football, as Diaa mentioned as well, it's really important to have these connections. It's not just about having a network, but building on these relationships and being able
Definitely.
to. So for me, I think, Dev is one of those symbols of that, because he introduced me so much and he broadened my network in general. So I think definitely building relationships in this industry is very important, and just having us three here at this moment is one of those main points.
Absolutely. Dev, how do you want to add to that?
Definitely networking and keeping that network. I mean, I'll give you a small example. When I was in my FIFA class, when I was a student, one of the guys that I know in the class, 4 or 5 years later, 2011, he introduced me to a sports journalist that works in Singapore, and that was 2011, 2012. And I met this guy, his name is James. I met him for like half an hour for a coffee in Cairo, and we kept in touch, okay? 8 years later, I kept in touch with this guy, James, over this 6-7 years. And then 7-8 years later, he sends me an email, says, Diaa, are you interested in joining this company called Sport Radar? I was like, I don't know Sport Radar, And I went online, I was like, oh my God. He said, yes, somebody that I know spoke to me, and he said that we need somebody to represent, Africa and the Middle East. And you just came to the top of my mind and said, I have the perfect guy for you. And And there you go. Just like Sabrina said, you know, it was just a matter of, I was put in touch with somebody 2011, and we just kept in touch, you know, over 5-6 years. You know, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and just a simple keeping in touch stuff, you know, that won't take 2-3 minutes away from our time, you know. But yeah, after, like I said, 7 years later, I was introduced to Sport Radar, and I did my interviews, and I was in. So yeah, keeping those networks and you said is very, very important, you know.
Absolutely. I'm just going to pivot the conversation now, because we've got, this is on Facebook. It's sort of a different environment to LinkedIn, for example, but the principles still apply. This summit, we're sort of having a theme on skill sets and how can people elevate their skill sets at home. So Sabrina, what is one skill set that has supported you with regards to your fascinating and inspiring sports career journey?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, of course, that I've kind of learned along the way as well. I think it's a learning process as well. You cannot just have the skill set right away from when you're born and then you have it further on. Although I think some people in regards to organizational skills and time management do have that from early stages. For me, I really thought about this, Ed. I think it's confidence, not just self-confidence, but in general confidence in the people that you work with. Self-confidence is the most important coming from my position. I think it took a while for me to realize that, you know, I should have the confidence in regards to pursuing my goals. And a lot of times when I first started out in this position, of course, I question myself whether I'm going the right position and whether it's the right way. But with time, I think I realized that I needed to trust myself. And once I trust myself, I think that other employers or other people within the club, they'll trust my my leadership, my goals that I'm pursuing towards. So I think confidence is quite important in general, having the self-confidence to be able to move forward. So I think that's mine.
Just from a take action perspective, so I want, if a listener says, okay, confidence, and they're thinking how, what would be that first step you would give to that person?
I think it's setting goals. I think we mentioned it earlier when we spoke, Ed. For me, it was setting goals. Once I joined the club, my first thing is making sure that I was in football. So I finished my degree, my master's degree. But once I joined the club and I became the CEO, the first thing I did was a 3-year strategy. I wanted to know what I want to do with the club in 3 years. I didn't want to just be like, okay, I want to win the title this year. No, it's not something you could do overnight. And you could take a look at some of the top clubs that try to do this overnight and they don't succeed. But I think it was me setting strategies and then going back in 2019, just recently, going through those strategies that I set and just clicking them off and saying, okay, I did this, I did that. And now I believe in my, let's say, I believe in my position and my goals and my achievements that I wish to have in the future for the club, and I think it's achievable. So for somebody to be able to have this trait in regards to developing themselves in the future, I think it's quite important just to set goals, whether they're small, whether they're big, and it's gonna eventually build your self-confidence. Once you see that you can achieve them, then I think your confidence keeps rising. It's not something that you can have overnight. It took me a while as well. I was not that confident the first year, but after winning the double title and after going through my strategies, after 3 years, I realized, you know, that I should be confident in the decisions that I'm making. Although I am young, but in the position that I am, I think, of course, we are to make mistakes, but you should be confident in the decisions that you make. So I think that's basically it.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. I just want people to take action today. Diaa, what's been one skill set that has supported you, reflecting from your fascinating career journey?
Well, I mean, of course, we have to educate ourselves. This is something normal that we need to have the proper education. One of the most important skills, Ed, is adapting what you learn to different environments. Today, when we work on different projects in the sports industry, you know, it's not about copying paste what you learned into different places. You know, no, you need to go out of the box and adapt to the different cultures that you're working with. I mean, for example, you know, my experience in Libya was very much different than my experience here. It's much more different than in Canada, than in Europe, you know, than in Asia. So it's about adapting. And I mean, if you do not have that skill properly and you don't know how to adapt what you learn to the different working spaces, then you're going to be very, very, I mean, upset with the results, you know, because like I said, it's about, you know, understanding. I mean, and maybe Sabrina can agree with me. I mean, women's football today is something, you know, worldwide. It's something growing very, very big. But again, you cannot just go into areas like in Africa and say, okay, we're going to have a women's football league, you know. You know, it's a little bit of a challenge to some of the places. You know, there's you know, a religious issue in some countries. You know, you have to take it in a different way. There's a cultural issue in a different way. So you need to adapt that big concept into the different markets that you're working in. So adapting what you know is a key that I feel that people need to understand well.
So just on that note, just for that first step, it's a big one to learn like that, because it takes time. Like I've learned it when I went to Singapore, when I went to Greece, speaking to the special guests. But what would be one tip would you give to somebody to be mindful when, let's say, reaching out to people in the football industry around different countries, you know, people, if that makes sense?
See, the way we present ourselves, Ed, is something very important too. You know, today, when we talk about the sports industry, I mean, when we say the world industry, we are sort of comparing the sports industry today, sort of like the multinational industry, like the retail industry, or whatever industry you want to talk about. And you know, when especially when we worked, and I worked in the multinational field for like 12, 13 years, you know, and you pick up these leadership skills, these time management skills, these presentation skills, and for you to transfer that into the sporting field, that is something very important that you need to do. So when you go out and you meet people on the sports industry in different cultures, you know, you need to present yourself in that way, you know, show them that the way you talk is properly, you know, you have very realistic goals and targets that you can do, you know. But believe me, the most important thing that you need to show out there in the sports industry is the passion, Ed. I mean, and this is something that I mean, we're not going to find in Africa, for example, or in the Middle East, websites for clubs that have job roles and jobs on their websites. We're not going to have that. You know, it's not. I cannot see that happening in the next 10, 15 years. You know, so it's about who do you know. You know, put you in touch with somebody. You need to present yourself in a very professional way. You know, and then you have to show that passion to be able to fit in.
Sabrina, how do you want to add to that with like understand the culture of sport?
Well, I think, you know, in Bosnia, it's similar. We had the same problem when I came here when I was 19. All I could hear is people saying, you know, you can't find a job unless you know somebody. So coming from United States and moving back here, considering I haven't lived in Bosnia since I was 5 years old, I don't know anybody. I knew only a few family members that were mostly in medicine that had nothing to do with my career. So I think, yeah, so it didn't really assist me. And when I came back from finishing ISDE, one of the key principles for me was that I didn't want anybody helping me. I actually wanted to do something on my own. I wanted to prove that I didn't need a connection in some place to be able to get a job, that it was my my ability, my education, my working ability. In general, I think these things were something that I wanted to stand out to be able to get a job. For me, I was lucky enough to it was luck for me, I think, in general, to be in the position that I am. We had a situation where I had to translate from English to Bosnian, which I was very nervous about because of these translations that I had to do. It was just kind of adapting, as you mentioned earlier, adapting to the situation. Because of that certain situation, I got a job offer to become the head of legal. Because of my involvement and being open and discussing everything in regards to club with the board members at that point that were from Malaysia. Being open to them, I think, was something that they gained trust. It wasn't my work experience at that point as a CEO, because I didn't have one, to get me to the position that I am. So I think definitely when you mentioned adapting and having this cultural situation, you have to kind of stand out from that. My podcast was kind of standing out of the comfort zone with Ed. And I think definitely it was a good topic because I was not in my comfort zone. I don't have people that were women leaders in the football club that I can look to. It was me going and learning from my mistakes and moving forward. Although everybody said women cannot be in football, it was me explaining what the offside rule is or what a 4-3-3 positioning on the pitch is. for somebody to understand that I understand football. It wasn't the fact that I played. They think, oh, you played 90 minutes, and I said, yeah, women's football is the same. You play 90 minutes. So definitely, I think it takes small steps, but I think there is ability to change the views. Now people don't look at me as the women's CEO; they look at me as the CEO.
CEO, good. Sorry, I had to say that. Like, they got to see you for your talent, they got to see you for your knowledge and what you've done, experience. Those are three things, everybody. Sorry to butt in, but I'm literally about to blow up because this is where football's football. It doesn't matter if you're male, female. It's football's football. A position is a position, as long as it goes down to skill set, knowledge, and experience, and personality as well. Sorry, I had to just say that because this is so important, everybody. We've got the sort of a final question for both of you, and it's quite brief. That's okay, because it's been an amazing conversation. Diaa, starting with you, what changes would you like to see moving forward when sport is back on the mat, back on the pitches, and everything's hopefully back up and running?
Wow, that is a tough question right now. You know, like I said, Ed, I've been receiving a lot of questions and from youngsters who want to move into the sports industry. You know, yes, today, I mean, the crisis that happened. Of course, I wish everybody, you know, that safe, health, and away from this horrible disease that's happening right now. But yeah, I think, you know, in the future there needs to be more. I don't know, guidelines maybe. I think because of the COVID-19 issue, you know, when the crowd gatherings today, I think they're going to have some different KPIs or measurements for crowds in stadiums. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't be able to say anything about this. But again, want to see is that, you know, we need to get more people involved in the sports industry, because today, after this crisis, we've seen how much commercial value we've lost in the sports industry today, you know. And I think we need to put better guidelines and better plans, you know, for the sports industry in the future. And like I said, there's tons of youngsters out there, but unfortunately they're not getting their 100% chance right now. They need to connect well. They need to do some volunteer work, like Sabrina said earlier. You know, it's something very important that shows people that you are willing to take that risk and move into the new career. And you know, and we're always here to help and give everybody advice, you know.
Absolutely. And Sabrina, what change would you like to see implemented?
A lot of women in the football industry. No, I'm just joking.
No, good. No, it's true. It's true. But you know, let's you know me. Diaa knows me so well. You know, let's state the obvious if it needs to be stated. But you know, carry on what you want to say. But honestly, I agree with that.
Definitely more involvement maybe in the board members and in the general management. I think women should have the equal opportunity. But in regards to, that's something that, of course, I've been mentioning earlier on, because I think it's quite obvious being a woman, it's quite obvious that, of course, I wish more women were involved. But in regards to changes it's something that I think football in general, I'm coming from football, so I'm gonna say football. It needs to be changed. It's a living matter, so it is changing. For example, we're discussing just recently with the ECA, we're discussing about the third competition, and that is a change moving forward. I think we need to reconsider the structures of football. There's a lot of talk right now in this current situation about whether our league will be continuing or it will not be continuing, whether we will have European qualifications or not. I think at this point there's not too much involvement of clubs per se in the decision process. We just received a notification saying, okay, you're starting your season in a month. I think it's coming from the player perspective as well. It's quite difficult for someone to prepare in a month. It doesn't matter whether you're doing online training or whether you're following a certain program. I think we need to consider not just the clubs, we need to consider the players. So FIFPro, ECA, and UEFA and the bodies need to involve their members in the decision process. So I think in the future, I think we need to change the aspect of using using other members, not just the UEFA coming with the decisions, or not just the ECA coming with the decisions, but involving the members. I would like to as well see the change in regards to smaller clubs being able to progress through the European competitions, because it's quite difficult for us to be able to compete with the bigger clubs. This last year we had the first qualification round. It was against Celtic. So coming from a budget that I have and the budget that Celtic has, we played very well, but it's quite difficult to compete in this situation. So I think the structure of the competitions need to be reconsidered, and I think we need to have a change in regards to how we involve the members in the decision processes.
Wow. Honestly, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. And look, unfortunately, we've got so many left to do. We're getting near the point of wrapping up. Diaa, could you just explain to listeners how people can connect with you online, the best place?
Yeah, sure. I'm on my Twitter, on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook. I'm 24 hours, available for anybody. Sometimes I might take 4 or 5 hours before I get back to them. But yeah, I mean, my social media, it's perfect. If you want to share my WhatsApp with anybody, of course, feel free, Ed. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've just seen this, Sabrina. One comment that just come through now. Have a quick read.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
And I know you don't like giving too much social media, but where's the best place where people can at least get some engagement, if that makes sense, if possible?
Well, I'm not like when I became the CEO, I cut everything. So I do, me and Ed were discussing this. I do have I do have Facebook and I do have Instagram, but unfortunately it's very closed off in regards to the public, because I keep it closed because of the fans and the current situation that we have. In general, the best ways.
And you're a bit famous right now over there, of course. So
that too, but you never know if it's a bad match. The fans might not be happy. So
I know, yes.
I keep everything simple. I'm not very too much in the media. I'm only with my close friends in regards to Instagram and Facebook. In regards to LinkedIn is the best option because I'm there very open. I do take much longer than 4 or 5 hours because I don't check it as often, and I'm not very good at messaging back very quickly sometimes. But I try to get back to everyone as possible.
Awesome. Well, look, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. I'm so glad you two finally connected. We had to do it on a live stream. But look, everybody, please share your biggest takeaway, especially on Twitter. We're going to try and trend today. So just make sure you put Spirit of Sport. And look, Sabrina, Diaa, it's been such a pleasure. And thank you so much for being involved in this summit today.
Thank you, Ed.
Amazing.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Sabrina. Nice to meet you.